Today on Homeworthy, we're up bright and early with the incredible floral and event designer Lewis Miller to make sure we find the freshest blooms in New York City's famed flower market. Lewis is also the author of 2 beautiful coffee table books and has become a social media sensation with his flower flashes that pop up all over New York City. You can find them in trash cans, ice cream trucks, construction zones, and the list goes on. So come with us as we spend the day with Lewis. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Good morning, Homeworthy. I'm Lewis Miller. I'm excited to be with you on this Monday morning. I'm going to take you to a few of my favorite floral distributors here in the New York Flower Market. Then we're going to go back to my studio. I'm going to make an arrangement and do a little demonstration for you, show you around my workspace, and then we're going to pop over to my apartment for a very quick look at my tiny little home. So I'm excited to spend the day with you. Let's go. So we're in Dutch Flower Line. This is one of my very favorite vendors. And as you can see, this is mid-June and the array of stuff here is amazing. It's a little bit overwhelming. So we're in that season between spring and summer. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. We have a lot of stuff here that's very textural, like this green wheat and this money plant. But then if you come up here, we have the more kind of robust feature flowers like the peonies and the dahlias. Like dahlias are usually a fall flower, but we're starting to get those in earlier. Like these are exquisite right now in these kind of fiery tones. One thing I have my eye on that's so beautiful right now is this sweet pea, and it's on the stem still. So they're long stem and it has a lot of movement. It has an incredible fragrance. It comes in these hot pinks and these purple tones. So I'm looking for today, for the arrangement we're gonna make, I wanna do something in sort of summer jewel tones so that it feels bright but rich at the same time. So one thing I have my eye on are these beautiful German irises. These have a very short season and a pretty short vase life, but there's something very old-fashioned and lovely about them and kind of fragile and beautiful. So I'm excited to work with these. Then if we go into here, this is the walk-in cooler. There's still a lot of amazing peonies left from the spring season. I mean, we're still in peony season. A lot of them are coming from Canada and further up north right now, but you still have these hot pinks and these cerise colors and the salmons. These are always everybody's favorite. I really love this really intense color here, and they smell good. I'm really kind of a fragrance junkie, so any flower that smells good is A-okay by me. Then we come into the hydrangea. So this is your quintessential summer flower for summer parties. And again, a wide range of colors and shades. And so let's get shopping. Okay, so I want to grab these because this is the last bundle here. This is called Eryngium. This is one of my favorite flowers. It's also called sea thistle, and actually when we go back to my apartment, you'll see my curtains have this printed on them. So I love this for the texture and this sort of amazing bright blue. Okay, again in the texture department, this is a stilbe, a very summery flower. I love the contrast, that kind of soft, feathery, plumy with the thistles. So texture is kind of important in my work, but I also like bold, juicy colors. Let's go back up there and grab that bunch of iris before it disappears. Okay, so this is the German iris again. We're working in these bright purples and pinks, jewel tones. You can see I'm starting to sketch out a palette here. I want to grab some sweet pea because that's going to give it some jump and some movement and fragrance too, which I think is really important. So I'm going to go with this purple. As you can see, it smells so good. It has 2 tones. It has almost a burgundy and then a brighter purple, so that adds some interest. And these pretty little pea shoots give a summery vibe to it. Let's bring in a little of the delphinium. I like the lacy quality of that. And then I need a big, robust focal flower, so I'm gonna go with peonies for that one. So there's these beautiful hot pinks. I'm gonna grab some of these. Maybe 2 shades of pink. So then I take these and I put them on the shelf. I kind of evaluate what my color scheme is, go back and forth, fill in the gaps. So let's lay it out and see how it looks. Okay, it's pretty, but it lacks a little muscle. So I saw this foliage out front that has a dark burgundy kind of flower to it. I'm gonna add some of that in here. So let me go grab that real fast. Okay, this stuff is beautiful. It's very summery. I love that kind of rusty burgundy tone. And then the last thing I want to grab are some of these dark dahlias. The last bunch, but that kind of deep garnet tone is really going to add richness to the arrangement. Okay, I feel like we're almost there. It might be missing one thing. I'm not sure what it is. I feel like it needs something delicate and light just to soften it up. So let me do one more round and see what I can come up with. Aha, this is what it is. Again, it's kind of a summery texture. It still works in our color palette, but because it has a little bit of white, it's just gonna lighten it up just a little bit so it doesn't feel too heavy or dense, and it feels really appropriate for this time of year. I think we're done. Okay, this stuff we're gonna take with us. Okay, let's go down the street and see what else we can find. I love this time of year because basically I'm a country kid and all this stuff is like roadside weeds. So we have thistle, we have this stuff called dock. These are just wild grasses, Russian olive, all this stuff you see growing on the roadside of the Long Island Express. So you would think it'd be cheap, but this is New York. But I do love that kind of wildness about it. So let's walk down the street. I'm gonna take you to a few more of my favorite vendors. This is a plant vendor, so here you can buy boxwood, you can buy plants for terrace landscaping. We routinely buy plants for some of our hotel accounts and different projects we're doing. These boxwood topiary are really great. The Russian olive plants. The begonias are very pretty this time of year. Oh, and then here's olive trees. These are lovely. These are not hardy in the Northeast, but they're great for summer terraces and plantings. Our next vendor up here is called 28th Street Wholesale, and they really feature just like wild local stuff. And by local, I mean some of it's California, but it's field grown, it's not hothouse grown flowers. So there's a certain wildness to it that's really lovely. So we're coming to them now, and you can see these purple artichokes from California, all these wild grasses. There's this amazing thistle, wheat, banksia. Let's go inside and take a look. Okay, so you can see all this amazing stuff. There's a lot of herbs, there's a lot of kind of organic garden plants. I'm gonna grab a few things while I'm here. Here's some beautiful fresh peppermint. Again, it smells so good, I'm gonna grab some of that. I also love this sage. I like to use herbs a lot whenever possible. And lastly, some of these opium pods. So this is from the poppy, this opium pod, the opium poppy, which actually you can distill this down and make a substance. So let me just put these on the rack and then we'll head down the street again.
chit chat.
Oh, look, it's everybody. Marianne and Marge. Hi. How are you? Good to see you.
So good
What's
to
going
see
on?
you.
Look who I ran into on the street. This is my friend Margette. Margette freelanced for me like, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So she's like staples in the industry and very talented designer. So it's exciting to see a familiar face. I mean, we run into people a lot, but it's like we were saying, more and more, I feel like the crowd is people that we haven't necessarily, we don't necessarily, it's just a younger generation. So, you know, when you see like old school, you hold on tight.
You were in the trenches
in the trenches with, yes, exactly. We've done battle with.
Trying to get the job done at the Brooklyn Museum with
on top of
bales
scaffolding
everywhere.
Under a time crunch. Those are the people, the blood, sweat, and tears of the industry.
Exactly, absolutely.
Yeah,
We've been there.
The good old days.
So.
Let's pause here for a second and appreciate this amazing door. This is the kind of stuff I love. So as much as I love beautiful flowers and country weeds, when I see this kind of urban grit, this makes me want to do a flower flash here. Foliage garden, I love this place, especially in the winter. It's just the most amazing plants in the whole city. So come on in and take a look. Just smells like life in here. Hi, are these sold?
That one, it is.
Oh,
This one is available.
I love a staghorn fern. These things in Florida grow enormous, to like the size of a Volkswagen hanging from a tree.
And they have more in the front.
You have more in the front? Okay, let me take. Then on the opposite end of the spectrum, one of my favorite plants in the world, this very delicate maidenhair fern, this bright green, it's very lacy. So you can see this is an extreme contrast from the staghorn fern. The secret to keeping a fern like this alive is lots and lots and lots of water. Medium sunlight, but just water. Water is life to these things. The minute they dry out, they're fried. And then this, I'm not a huge orchid fan. I mean, these are beautiful, but I am infatuated with these lady slippers. They look like little creepy shop of horror flowers, but they're so delicate and beautiful. And they come in these beautiful greens and burgundies. So this is really one of my favorite. And you'll see a lot of these in my studio and in my apartment. So I try to keep them in and around whenever they're in season. So my very favorite indoor tree is this. It's called a black olive. To me, this replaces the very popular fiddle leaf fig. They're so lacy and beautiful. They need a lot of sun, a fair amount of water. I have them in my apartment. They last forever. But I just wanted to show you this because they're not so popular quite yet. And I think we're gonna see them on a much larger commercial scale in the next few years. Okay, I want to grab one bunch of these for our ever-growing arrangement. These are foxglove. They have a short growing season, so they're special. So I'm going to grab this. Let's go inside and take a look and see what they have. I love this cadmium red butterfly ranunculus. That color is so beautiful. And then we have the dark cotinus smoke bush foliage. This is a nice summery foliage. The green helleborus, that bright fresh green is pretty. I love black flowers. These are black calla lilies, so it's just such a cool, rich texture. Oh, and then these are amazing. These are, what are they called? They're called Jack in the Pulpit, flycatchers. So this is a carnivorous plant. so the little gnats and bugs get stuck in there, but they're just kind of creepy, crawly, and amazing looking. And then this is the LMD favorite flower, the anemone. But they're not really in season this time of year, so the quality is not as good, so I wouldn't buy these. They're really a spring winter flower. All right, I think we are finished here, so let's go pick up our flowers, go back to my studio, and make something pretty. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, good morning, Manny. How was your weekend? Hi, Tawana. Hi, Jose. Hi, Mimi. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hi, Katie. Oh, okay. So this morning, these guys are all doing hotel flowers. So we have this weekly hotel account. We have actually 3 hotel accounts. So Monday morning, bright and early, they get here and make flowers for the lobby, for the rooms, for the different meeting areas, and they will get delivered later this afternoon and again tomorrow. So this is my office, and there's a lot of pieces that I've had for years that have moved around with me from studio to studio. This big long sofa here was in my apartment a while back. It's a John Darien piece and it's great. The dogs love it. Covered in this sort of brownish tobacco linen. Over here is a pot rack that I got from Susan Parrish years ago at the Rhinebeck Antique Show. These are all from an old greenhouse in the Hudson Valley. So this is just, 20 years of stuff kind of all collected and made their way into this office. I love antiques. I love dogs, obviously. I love flowers, so I like coming to work and having all these things around me that make the day special. A lot of these pieces, they hold special meaning for me because they're things I've collected over the years. They've traveled with me from studio to studio, and it just evokes, relationships and times and periods and the art of the hunt and developing the business, the early days when it was all new and exciting. And it's still exciting, it's just not so new anymore. So it's nice to be in this office, almost 22 years later and see things that I've had from day one, again, like this pot rack and some of these antiques that are just things that are special to me that I have brought with me wherever I've gone, and they happen to be here right now. So this is my library, or a portion of it. I have a lot in my home in Florida, but a lot of my inspiration comes from design, interior design, gardens. There's some flower books in here, history, art books. I find all of these things to be inspirational for creating events. One book in particular, this is the flower book that came out a few years ago, and we were very honored to be featured in it. It is sort of the history of floral design from throughout the ages, from ancient Egypt on, right next to Constance Spry, one of my floral arranging heroes. And then there's also one of my favorite books. No, I jest. This is just my book, Flower Flash, which came out 3 years ago, and this just chronicalizes the entire history and most of the flower flashes made up to date to this point. So it gives you a little bit of a visual history and a reference to how this all started, what the meaning is behind it, and just inspiration as a whole. Okay, so let's find a container for our flower arrangement. We have a lot of stuff to choose from, so let's take a look. Actually, I think I want to use this. I like this. It's a ceramic piece. It's kind of irregular. It's a little modern, brutalist. And since we have so many flowers, I think this will contain all of our flowers and be something nice and big. Let me just do a quick round, make sure this is the right vessel. That one leaks. Okay, I think we'll use this. Unpacking our flowers, getting them cleaned. These flowers have all been in water, so normally I would cut them and let them drink in water for a couple of hours before doing anything with them, but because we came directly from the flower market and they were all in buckets of water, they're nice and hydrated. So at this point, I'm just taking the plastic off, removing the rubber bands, and just laying out my color palette so I know what I have to work with. This is my favorite Eryngium here, the sea thistle. Yeah. Okay, we got the, what is this stuff called? Tana, pink Tana. Okay. I'm gonna wait and hold off on the sweet peas. I'm gonna do those last because they're the most delicate. These dahlias, it's unusual to have dahlias this time of year, but in the last couple years, this is also what happens. So just so you know, when you open up a bundle of flowers, you're not, say there's 10 stems, you may end up with 7 stems. There's always some loss. And dahlias have a tendency to shatter, and that's what this is happening here. These petals are dropping off. So some of that's gonna happen, but I pull the ones aside that are still good. You just kind of give it a little tickle and get the loose petals off. They're also a little out of season. These are coming from Holland, and dahlias traditionally don't travel so well. So we're just gonna be thankful for the few that we get. This also is why flowers are expensive, because not all flowers make it into the vase, but you still pay for them, so. I mean, these petals are so pretty. I hate to throw them out. It just looks like beautiful floral confetti. But alas, we get over that quickly. Peonies. Everybody's favorite. Why do people like peonies so much? I ask myself that same question. I mean, they're nice, they're just a little obvious. I think they're pretty, they're big. I think it's mostly because they're just so big and robust, you know? They smell great, they come in great colors. I like them almost as a filler flower because these sort of strange things are more my taste, but they do add a fullness and a robustness to the arrangement. So I'm just kind of giving these a little bit of a massage to open them up. You can see some of them are tighter than others, and just doing a little bit of that. These are a little bit blown. They're a little open later in the season, so they're opening up quickly. When it's earlier in the time, earlier in the year, they're much tighter, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days for them to open. This red one's beautiful too. So a lot of times peonies come tight like this. Now this won't open up for another 3 or 4 days, and I just take the bottom stems off, or the bottom leaves off. I like to lay out my colors and really kind of figure out my color story here. Like I mentioned in the market, I'm kind of going for bright summer jewel tones. So it's rich and bright at the same time, but I think pinks and the pinks and purples always are really nice together. And I like, you know, bright flowers. I mean, flowers are meant to be happy and evoke, you know, an emotional response and evoke joy. So these bright colors, I think, do just that. These are bearded iris, also known as German iris. So I'm putting them in a bucket because their petals are really fragile and I want to give them some space. I'm just giving them a fresh cut, a nice 45-degree angle. These will open up beautifully. When we bring flowers back from the market, the first thing we do is get them in water. Normally at this point, I wouldn't even take the plastic off. I would just cut them, put them in buckets of water, and let them drink for 2 hours or so. That way they completely hydrate. Then we go through, take the plastic off, strip off all the leaves, get them prepped for making an arrangement. There's a fair amount of work that goes into prepping flowers. You don't just take them directly from the store and into a vase. They need to be conditioned correctly so that they open up, so that they have the best shot at a long life. Some flowers immediately will open up and they have to be put in the cooler to slow down the opening up process. Some flowers are very tight, like this peony, and you might have to put them into hot water so that they open up quicker. But when we're doing flowers for events, which is primarily what we do, it's a little bit of a juggle between the sunshine and the hot water and the cooler and the cool air to get them to that point so when they come to a party, they're all at their perfect phase. Okay, I'm down to the last several things here. My sweet pea. So these were locally farmed. And you can see there's a lot of vine on them. So they were grown up a trellis or strings and then harvested, so you get all these amazing pea shoots and tendrils. So that's going to take a little bit of work to untangle all of those, but we'll get to that in a second. And then lastly, we have our foliage here. And this will be the base for our arrangement. We'll start with this. Okay, so I think we've got everything set here. Okay, let's get started. Let's make an arrangement. Okay, so I have my vessel here. First thing I'm gonna do is add water. Very important. You would actually be surprised how many people forget this step. I'm going about 2 fingers from the top. These flowers are all pretty heavy drinkers, so you want to make sure you don't go skimpy on water, and you want to make sure every single day you top it off. Flower food is next. So this is commercially grown flower food. It's called Cristal or something like that, and it's just a powder that I put about a teaspoon in there. If this is something you don't have at home, which if you do want to have it at home, you can buy it on Amazon or at craft supply stores. But if you don't have this at home and you want to add a flower food substitute to your water, you could do simply half water, lukewarm water, half lemon lime soda like 7-Up or Sprite. It's basically the sugar and the citric acid that acts as a flower food, which is what that stuff is. So that just helps feed your flowers and makes them last a little bit longer. So I'm gonna get started here. I've got this amazing display of stuff, but I'm gonna build my base out with this unknown branch, which we can't figure out what it's called, but it's very pretty. And really start to kind of sketch out my shape. I'll probably get this with my sweet pea in next, and then start to fill in with the bigger, fuller flowers like the peonies, and then add more delicate things. So with a branch like this is a woody stem. So this applies to things like lilac or cherry or crabapple. When you're working with a woody stem like this, you want to either kind of break and mash the stem like this, and that just helps it absorb water. Or the other thing is you can take your cutters and you can slice it up and really just kind of chew the ends of this thing up. And every time you do that, that gives more surface area to absorb water. So I also want to make sure that that anything below the edge of this container is leaf free. I just want stems in here. I don't, because these leaves, what happens is they will, if they're in the water, they're going to start to break down, and that will contribute to decay and bacteria. So I'm just cutting off any sort of broken pieces, making sure everything looks good. And this is sort of an odd shaped container, which is nice because it will be a little bit more abstract. This is the second piece that I just cut. I'm going to still use it. Try to waste as little as possible. All of these flowers will not fit in this vase, but then again, sometimes you're surprised. Like a vase can really eat things up quickly. So we'll see. I would say probably about 2/3 of them at very least will make it into this container. So what I like about adding this foliage first is that it gives me a little bit of a foundation and it finishes off my edges, and then I'm not struggling to hide the mechanics or the lip of the vase. And it also acts as a little bit of a cushion for all these other flowers and helps to elevate them up. So I'm just working my way around. I'll save a piece for the end. We can go ahead and have some be a little bit taller. And it's still loose in there, so things are going to shift around a bit. Okay, I'm going to actually get some of this eryngium in, and the reason being is that it's got multi-stems and it's kind of stiff, so it'll actually help support the structure and the mechanics of this arrangement. So again, I'm just going to remove any sort of brown petals like this. Make sure it's all clean, there's nothing broken. Sharp cut at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to tuck this in a little bit lower. And already I love that texture. Now this piece has a blossom that fell off, so I don't like the way that sort of raw stick looks. So I'm going to carefully go down there, trim that out so it has a more natural look. Again, taking off any leaves that are going to go underneath the water line. And I want my stems, for the most part, to go to the bottom or as close to the bottom as possible, because as the flowers drink water, the water level will go down, and that just helps to contribute to a long and happy life. Okay, so I'm going to kind of speckle this in. When you're making an arrangement, err on your stems being on the longer side. You can always go back and cut things shorter. I kind of want my shape to be a little bit dipped in the middle and not too much of a dome. So the next thing I'm going to get here is some of this sweet pea, because the stems are a little bit brittle, and before this gets too full and packed with flowers, I want to get some of these more delicate things in here. And this really adds a lot of kind of energy to the arrangement. So I gotta be very strategic in my cuts because there's a lot of little nubs here that I want to cut off so that it's clean. And there, that's the perfect tendril. Sorry, I'm gonna recut the stem. And I'll let these kind of weave through the whole arrangement. Some will be higher, some will be lower, some will tumble out. I can take this piece and utilize it. There's another nice piece. Again, I'm just removing any broken or damaged things. And I can kind of weave these pea shoots through the branches because I like the playfulness of the little tendrils. Oops, that one broke, so shoot. So pieces like this, it's too small for this arrangement, but it's great for a smaller arrangement or a bud vase, so we set those off to the side. Try not to waste anything. And it's good to just routinely give this thing a spin so you can see what you're doing. Step back and look at your overall profile and shape. Okay, I'll come back with sweet pea. I'm gonna get, let's see, what do we wanna do next? Let me get some peonies in here. So we've got these nice big peonies. Now, these peonies all have these little nubs where we remove the leaves. So I really like to take those off and skin it very clean. And the reason being is that when you're making an arrangement, and sometimes you put in a flower and you don't like where you put it, and you wanna take it out, if you leave those nubs on, they act as a grip and it just pulls everything else out with it. So if it's nice and smooth, this flower can go in and out with ease. Again, nice sharp cut at a 45-degree angle, and I'm just gonna start layering a drift of these peonies in here. It's important to give your flowers a sharp 45-degree angle cut because that fresh cut immediately helps it absorb water, because the minute you cut it, it takes a big gulp of air. You, right after the cut, want to plunge it into water. By doing it at a 45-degree angle, it just gives you more surface area for the stem to absorb. So I just start layering these things in, working my way around. I have these peonies at different heights because you don't want everything at the same level. You want to create little nooks and valleys. And in order to have this sort of loosely packed look, you've got to have layers. If it's just one big, if everything's at one layer, it just tends to feel like a dome and kind of not quite as interesting that way. So yes, I will definitely tuck some in a little bit deeper. They're not going to be quite as obvious, but it just gives the arrangement a little bit more depth. And then some will definitely be layered up a little higher. So you can see how quickly we're going through the flowers here. I mean, this container is eating them up. How long have I been arranging flowers? Gee, I think I started when I was in my early 20s, so that was a long time ago. Probably going on over 30 years. If you're constantly inspired, then is it inspiration? You know, inspiration comes in waves. I mean, I'm very lucky because I get to work with flowers, and I think one of the ways flowers stay inspirational to me is that I also live in New York City. So, you know, you go outside and it's all chaos and concrete. So this is just such a nice contrast. I mean, I am a creature of, I love contrast. So as you can see, the textural and the fluffy. But living in Manhattan, living in this urban jungle, flowers definitely are like the oxygen. So it keeps it a lot more interesting for me. I think if I lived in an area where flowers were just beautiful around you all the time, they may not mean quite as much. But I learned very quickly when COVID happened that a little bit of time without flowers and I was really jonesing for them again. I started the Flower Flash in 2016, and the idea of the Flower Flash was really, it was kind of a way for me to give back, doing something in an unexpected way that I enjoy, but it also, selfishly, it just kind of invigorated my creativity because, you know, we do wedding and event design, and these things are planned out months in advance. And so sometimes by the time you actually get there, you feel like the spontaneity and the joy of it's been kind of seeped out a little bit. So the Flower Flash is my response to that. It's not overly planned. It's these big, larger-than-life flower installations in the middle of an urban setting, primarily New York. And that contrast of the city with the flowers and these larger-than-life sort of displays that are just meant to evoke joy and be there for no other reason than to celebrate flowers and life. So that's fun for me because it also you know, a lot of my job, most of my job is spent behind the computer and behind telephones and on site visits and doing sort of everything but flowers. Like these guys all get to do the fun stuff, and it's hard work and they do an amazing job. But for me to do a flower flash is like me getting back into the kitchen a little bit, getting my hands dirty and just doing what I love to do. All right, I'm gonna get some of these nice burgundy dahlias in here. I love the richness that kind of ruby color adds to it. I'm doing the same thing with these, just taking off these little nubs. And these kind of feel like little, you know, fireworks almost. So I'm gonna let some of those be a little bit taller. I can keep building up my shape. Do I have a favorite flower flash? I mean, I really like doing the waste bins. I think those are kind of my favorite. And these New York City trash bins are a dying thing. They're on their way out, so they're not going to be with us any longer very soon. So they just feel like larger, you know, again, like larger than life vessels on the street corner that just are bursting with 12-foot tall displays of flowers. I also like doing a flower flash against a graffiti wall. Again, it's like I like that sort of contrast of the urban ness and the softness of flowers. Every once in a while, you just need to stop and step back and take a look at your shape. I tend to squint so you can look at the profile, and if you've left your stems long, you're free to move things up and down as you need to. So let's get some of these iris in here, and I kind of want those to be tall and important and kind of come over top everything else, and this will open up really beautifully. Let's get one of these more open ones in there. Now that I'm almost finished, I'm going to just make sure the water level goes all the way to the top, because it's tricky with these opaque containers. You don't know how much water you actually have in here. And I didn't want to fill it too full from the beginning, because as I added flowers, it would take up space and then it might overflow. Okay, so that is almost there. Now I just like to give it a little bit of a jostle. Just get in there and just like sort of mess it up a little bit. Flowers just fall into place where they should. When choosing flowers and creating a color scheme for an arrangement, I like to follow the color wheel and really keep things more monochromatic. So in this instance, it's more cooler tones, the purples and the lilacs, but then it can merge over to the pinks and the reds. I wouldn't necessarily take a color scheme like this and add orange or yellow to it, because then I think that's too jarring. So the colors are all monochromatic, but it's still very interesting. It's not working just in the purples and blues. It's not working just in the pinks and reds. It's kind of straddling those areas on the wheel. And also just looking at flowers themselves, you know, like one flower can have a lot of different little variations of tone. Again, like this sweet pea has the lavender and that darker plum tone. It picks up nicely with this kind of plum rust tone. The foxglove is pink, but still has some purple streaks in it, so it just ties all these flower colors together. Are there any flowers I stay away from? You know, the minute I say I don't like a flower, then the next day I end up using it. So I try not to be a flower snob. I try to stay away from flowers that are really dramatically out of their season, like using peonies or lily of the valley in August. They're expensive, the quality's lousy, so try to embrace the seasons. And then just really be open. Like, you know, flowers are a short-term love affair. They're dead in 3 or 4 days anyway, so it's not like you can really make any dramatic mistakes. My favorite flowers, well, I tend to love flowers with fragrance. So gardenias, sweet pea, lily of the valley, freesia. I love the black and white anemones. That's a winter flower. I use a lot of those. But it kind of varies. Like, you know, flowers are like my dogs. I don't know which one I like the most. Some days, some are better behaved than others, and then they're my top pick. So we're done. Okay, welcome to our tiny little New York apartment. I've only lived here about a year. It's a little less than a year. It's sort of your basic, nondescript, pre-war building. So it was important for me to roll in here and make this place cozy. We're only here about 6 months of the year, so it's more of a summer place, and it's just me and the 3 dogs. So the first thing I did was to paint the walls with Faro and Ball drop cloth. And I wanted to choose a color scheme that felt warm in the winter, but it wasn't so heavy that in the summertime it still felt fresh. So I really kept things neutral here. Unlike my Florida house, which is much more colorful, this is really kind of a study in army greens and taupes and blues. And really, it's just all designed for the dogs. I got this sofa from Howe in London, and it's an old, it's not old, it's new, but it's English oak, and then the upholstery is actually World War I vintage army canvas, so it's basically indestructible. This piece here is a Swedish, or, well, they said it was Italian. I think it's Swedish, a piece which is great for books. It just gives some scale to the room. I have a tendency to love Gustavian pieces, or pieces that have almost a primitive, worn look to them. So you'll see that, as well as like that blue French table, or anything like this stone coffee table. This is a what they call an Indian wedding table. It's basically like a folding table for celebrations that just pop up, and so it's very simple and unassuming. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It has great views. I've got my tree that we saw in the flower market here. This brings the outdoors inside. Probably my most valuable thing in here is my 2 unicorns. I bought those in London 3 years ago, and they are hand-carved 17th century with whalebone horns. So that's kind of the mascot of the room. It's a small space, but there's no wasted space. So really, to create the sense of space, I've got the 2 big structure pieces on the ends, the sofa and the cabinet, and then it's anchored on the corners with lamps or a tree. And I actually have 7 or 8 people here every Wednesday night for a church group, and we have our discussion for 2 hours and eat snacks and play with the dogs. So it's small, but it's still very functional. Obviously, I don't do elaborate dinner parties, but like I said, we're just here about half of the year, so it's kind of just a place to sleep and then go back to work in the morning. I think it's very important to get as much storage as possible. So for me, a piece like this, which actually looks like an entertainment center, but I, like everybody else, just watches TV. I just watch TV on my iPad, but this is great for just storing books, odds and ends, anywhere I can stash stuff. It's very important. Storage is key, but you have to be very wise. Like, obviously, everything that came into this apartment was something I love, something that's important, or something that's necessary. So there's not a lot of extra stuff, and I'm forced to think about everything I bring in, because if one thing comes in, another thing has to go out. These cacti, I mean, for me, like, just my general aesthetic, we're in a very urban area, obviously, and we're overlooking Hudson Yards, but I do like this feeling. It's masculine, it's cozy. I like the plants, the terracotta, bringing in the cactus, and this is a low light corner, but I like this collection here because these are virtually indestructible. They will live with very little attention, whereas my black olive tree needs all the light it can get here in the corner, so that's why it's there, and it gets all the sunlight all day long, and just really helps to bring freshness to the space. I have a ton of plants in here. It is crucial for me to have living stuff. Again, it's like all the things I love most in this world: dogs, antiques, plants, and flowers. So I need them around me all the time, and especially in New York City. I'm so lucky with this view that I look out onto the Hudson River. It's got the most amazing sunsets, but I want it in here to feel like I extracted the park, brought this inside. Just gives you this feeling of relaxation, oxygen, and decompression, and it just makes it feel like home to me. I can't imagine a home without any of those elements: plants, dogs, a beautiful fragrance, books, art, and antiques. Most of the stuff here are finds from the Greenwich antique shops to the Rhinebeck antique fairs. I bought this chair. It's an Art Deco chair covered in this beautiful blue velvet from a store in Hudson Valley. So while I have a lot of antiques, I love these 2 brutalist paintings, and they just add some nice abstract and kind of masculine quality to the space. The most important thing for me in this apartment was investing in really beautiful drapes. So these were custom made. This Katie Leeds papyrus fabric, again, it's got a botanical theme to it, with this nice blue zigzag grosgrain tape. My friend Matthew Coles, who's an interior designer, helped me with the curtains in this place, and this was significant in that it just really customizes the room. It just makes the ceilings seem a little bit taller because it gives that vertical line and just softens all the kind of genericness of these just standard apartment windows and warms it up considerably. So, you know, in a small space like this, I still think it's really important to have layers. And so I literally layered the rugs. This is just an inexpensive Wayfair natural fiber rug with a cotton rug on top of it, so it gives you a little tension between the woven and the natural fiber. Anything with a patina or a natural element, from the lamp that's wrapped in rope to these sort of rusty, velvety pods from the sumac, to these antique armchairs here that are covered in sort of a raffia rope seating. I have a little bit of a basket fetish, so I love anything that's baskets, that's rope, that's woven, that's textural, but combined with things like whitewashed wood, natural canvas, like slate. So really, nothing in my world is slick or sleek or overly shiny, if possible. Lighting is crucial in an apartment like this, or any apartment, I think. Like, this apartment does not have overhead lights, thank God. I mean, I think they're the death to a room. So it takes a lot of lamps and a lot of dimmers and a lot of bulbs that are just the right wattage to create sort of a lighting schematic that is warm and beautiful in the evenings, but still light enough to be functional. So I really, while it's a small space, there's actually quite a few lamps. I've got the corner one here. I've got the wall unit that has 3 lamps. These lacquered pieces here with the beautiful woven fabric shades add a nice glow and a little bit of texture. And then again, the floor lamp in that corner. So at night, this is warm, it's not too bright. I can adjust things. These lights here, they have a couple of options, so it can go brighter to dimmer. And just anything to kind of avoid harsh, bright lighting, I think is incredibly important. So this area here, it's a nice area to display things, but it's also very functional. So I have books that I'm reading or books that I refer to often, you know, plants because I'm close to the window, the 2 library lamps, but then I put this vintage primitive green bench underneath that has all these inlay boxes. I love this kind of textural difference of the bone and the horn inlay with this sort of almost folk artish bench. Again, this is an Indian wedding table, which is basically just a folding table. This was chosen because I have an air conditioning unit behind it, and I needed something that would straddle that, disguise that without completely blocking it, because the last thing I want to do is walk in here and see a generic rectangle AC unit. I always knew from a young age I wanted to be in design of some sort. I didn't know that doing event design and flowers was really an option, but it's great for my personality because this stuff is fast. It doesn't drag on forever. You know, the parties end at midnight and you're on to the next. So whereas interior design and landscape design, these projects just have a lifespan that is much, much greater. I like the sort of boom, get it done, move on to the next one. I grew up in Central California. I'm basically a farm kid. My family was all in agriculture. We were avid gardeners, so we were surrounded by plants, flowers, orchards, fields. And I went to school for horticulture and landscape design. So that really is where my DNA comes from. Living things, you know, so me being transported to New York City, it's important for me to have as much of a country life in an environment that's very urban as much as possible. So this clearly is my kitchen. I have lovely dinner parties for 2 people right there at the counter, but most important, this is the dog buffet. We got the very generous treat jar and the raw hide sticks. Like I said, it's all about the dogs, what can I say? This is the kitchen. I have lovely dinner parties for 2 people right there at the counter, but most important, this is the dog buffet. We got the very generous treat jar and the rawhide sticks. Like I said, it's all about the dogs, what can I say? Like I said, it's all about the dogs, what can I say? So this is great because, you know, it overlooks the living room. I don't cook or entertain much, so I don't need a lot of cabinet space. I don't need a lot of counter space, but it's perfect for a single guy. What do I eat? Thistle. It's my new food plan that I actually even haven't used yet. What do I eat? Like any New Yorker, I tend to rely heavily on Uber Eats or Seamless. So it's a lot of takeout, or, you know, if I'm cooking for myself, it's generally yogurt and peanut butter. This is an antique mirror I got from that I purchased from Jason Home about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's old mercury glass that's, is it concave or convex, like when it comes out? Anyway, it just adds some light and reflection to the space. This crazy orchid I've had for almost 2 months now, and I can't bear to, I'm gonna be very sad when it leaves me, but it's this, you know, beautiful speckled brown and lime green. Next to my water filter, everybody thinks this is a big coffee pot. Like, why do you have a huge coffee pot? No, this is the Berkey water filter. So this is where we drink our water from. So in a small apartment like this, every square inch of space has to be utilized wisely. So this is a miniature little hallway thing that the washer and dryer are here. This is closet space. However, I found this little Swedish drop leaf table that fits perfectly in here. It's a great spot for keys, dog leashes and stuff. So it actually makes this very functional, and now it doesn't feel like a hallway, it feels like a room. And it just gives me more space to put things. I found these antique butterfly dioramas in the Hamptons last summer, and again, it's sort of my love of nature, of the flora and fauna, and all things botanical and naturalistic. So this is my bedroom. I wanted sort of an old-fashioned, almost monastic approach to the bedroom. Like, it's clearly about sleeping. But at the same time, you know, layers and warmth. So bringing in the antiques, this old dresser here, the Piranesi prints, I can't do anything about that. That's the bane of my existence. But if I take it off or cover it up, I'll get in trouble. The bed, what can I say? It's a simple early American style bed. Having custom made curtains and drapes was really important. And these beautiful drapes here have the Eryngium flower on them. This is the flower we saw at the flower market. So this beautiful Eryngium print with this great ribbon that contrasts, that edges them out, just gives height and interest to the room and softens kind of the commercial qualities of this apartment building. So I love plants and I hate air conditioning units. So I had this very simple wood table made. It's literally the simplest thing, 3 boards nailed together. It fits right over the AC unit. It acts as a shelf for plants or books or objects, whatever. This antique folding screen, it's a mirror, a vintage mirror, very mercury glass. It's great because it livens up a dead corner. It acts as a full-length mirror and just reflects the light and the sunrises and the sunsets as you walk in, and just kind of gives life to this corner of the room. So making a bed, especially when you have 3 dogs, again, I continually go back to that because this is all about them. White sheets and white duvet covers are not the best choice. This John Robshaw piece I love. It's velvet on one side, it's just cotton twill on the other, but this beautiful mossy green. This is Caravane printed quilts, which I have so many of these. The crisp blue and white Ralph Lauren shirting stripe fabric is great for summer. My friend Faustina Pace in West Palm Beach makes these amazing pillows out of vintage French and Belgian linens, so those are great. This piece here is not so great, but in about 3 days, this is going to be covered, replaced with something the same size that's the same thistle fabric as the curtains. It just didn't get here in time. I have the 2 pieces of art here. This landscape, which is quite small, and I kind of like the Spartan quality of it, and then across the bedroom is the much larger library photograph of the Roman library. So you got a little interior, exterior, then the Piranesi print that's over the dresser. So baskets are very important. I love baskets, and lidded baskets that act as storage is important. Here are more of these World War I army baskets that I bought in Paris about 20 years ago. And they're great because there's shoes stored in there, there's sweatshirts in there, just more storage. Anywhere you can squirrel things away is a good thing. There's a lot of similarities between my office and my homes because it's all my lifestyle, you know, and stuff had all these pieces are things that have went with me from apartment to home to office to Florida to back again. So things are always shifting. You know, I think when I bought these baskets, I think I have a total of 7 of them, and 3 are here, 4 at my office. There might even be a few in Palm Beach. So yeah, it's pieces that I've loved, and over the years, some pieces have not made the cut, and other pieces I'm like holding on to them because they're kind of irreplaceable. What do I love the most about this home? Honestly, I just like how cozy it is. It doesn't have space for anything unnecessary. You know, we live here like snug as a bug in a rug. And it's not pretentious, it is what it is. It's close to work. We're here 6 months of the year, and it's very low maintenance, low upkeep. But every time we walk in, we kind of feel like we've left New York and we're in a different place.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.